Writer's Dream. This is a show where authors are able to talk about how they write their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. Uh, you can find us on YouTube. Just look for my name, Linda Maria Frank. I am the author of Annie Tillery Mysteries. Click on my picture and my channel will come up and you will be able to view over 100 videos of interviews with authors. If you're a reader and a writer and you're interested in how books get put together, you'll find some very interesting information there. We're also on Facebook, The Writer's Dream, and we appear on Cablevision Channel 20 on Thursdays at 2:30. So today's guest is Eileen Obser, and she is a recidivist. I like to call them recidivists. She's been on our show before. She is a teacher, she is an author, and we are here to talk to you all about her latest book, 3 Rooms, Shared Bath, by Landlady in the Hamptons. Eileen, I love this book. I absolutely love the cover and the way it's set up, but I'm going to read the description on the back so that people know what we're talking about. So let me don my glasses and, okay. Diana Long is an attractive middle-aged widow who rents rooms in her East Hampton home, but she is feeling pressured to make changes in her life. She loves the Hamptons, but should she sell the house and move on? Should she stay, perhaps settling for just one tenant or housemate, or only rent seasonally? 3 Rooms, Shared Bath shows the Hamptons up close from Hampton Bays to Sag Harbor to Montauk, with real sights and scenes and events such as Authors' Nights, the Hamptons Classic, and the Shinnecock Indian Powwow. The summer of 2008 is almost over. The Democratic Convention is in progress with Obama taking the stage. The Beijing Olympics have just ended, and Hurricane Gustav is headed for Louisiana. The world seems to be changing, but Diana feels she is standing still. We meet and learn about many tenants, the good, the bad, and the ugly, who have passed through Diana's house. Should she make a change? Love enters the picture, and that may alter her choices, as love often does. Okay, Eileen, tell us about living in East Hampton and how it has inspired you.
Well, I have lived here for 46 years.
Wow, lucky you.
Yeah, well, it's changed, but 41 years in my own house. And the novel is based on my own experiences of being a landlady out here, of course. But I couldn't write it as a memoir. I do like to write mainly nonfiction, but I did have to fictionalize the tenants.
Well, of course, to protect the guilty.
Yeah.
Right? To protect the guilty.
And there's some other fictional elements in it too, including characters. But even David Rattray of the Star, when he announced that I'd be reading at the library, he called it semi-autobiographical. And that's a good word. And at first I said, oh no, it's not that. But it is. It's part of my life. My living out here, my being the landlady with its ups and downs. And I've met, as I have in the book too, good, bad, and ugly tenants over the years. Some who I've known as long as almost 30 years are still my friends. We've stayed friends. And that's wonderful. That's a good feeling. We stay in touch. But others, I don't, so many I would never want to see again. And
well, let me talk about the way the book is set up. I really liked the way you set the book as far as sections go. For instance, rules for tenants. What are the rules for tenants, by the way?
Well, I've had for many years a typed list of my rules for tenants, which other landlords, whether or not they wrote them out, they have rules themselves. Okay,
Right.
But so I didn't hand them out, but I would read them to different people depending on what I thought might be abused.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some no smoking or drugs or weapons in the house.
Yes,
Minimum alcohol, please.
I had
Is
the
for one
artist.
person only, no overnight guests. Oh, that's an interesting one all
Yes,
by itself. No cooking, please. If I am teaching or I have guests, yes, we don't want those cooking orders, do we? No noise late at night, music, TV, talking, preferably not after 11 p.m. Um, Without going through all of them, I really like the fact that that's how you set the book up with these rules, because I'm sure that's where your good and bad and ugly tenants showed up. So tell me about, you've already explained that some of your tenants are still your friends. Talk about the most interesting tenant you had.
oh my, good or bad or ugly, which do
Now,
you?
now what the most interesting. Sometimes the
Oh,
bad are the most interesting.
oh well, I've had one fellow who almost died in my house. Managed to save his life from drug
That's exciting.
use, and he's deceased now. And I changed, of course, his name, parts of the way the room looked that he was stayed in, but basically it was the right story, the real story, and that was a hard call, and that's one I'll never forget.
I would imagine
Throughout the
so.
book, I have scenes of some of the difficult
What's
ones.
the funniest?
That was
What
sad.
would you rather just read passages?
The funniest? Well, I didn't mark off the funniest. I marked off the bad. No, I did actually. I had one dear tenant, a young man, 20 years old, who was intern at an architecture firm out here. Now, that wasn't really what he was. I changed his profession. I did things like that with my characters. But he really was young. He was still in college. He was going to be going to graduate school. And we really hit it off. And I actually allowed him, I had a dog and a cat, but I allowed him to bring in a dog, a small dog. But we would go for walks together and, just chat together. And he was gay, which I figured out early on. And it was okay. Sometimes I'd watch his dog because he had a date. That was a wonderful relationship. And I have one brief scene, which I will read to you.
Oh, good. Good.
It's actually toward the end of the book, but I will mention, she won't mind. In fact, she thinks she's tuning in. I didn't know it was being recorded. Was the owner of Babette's Restaurant, which just closed after 27 years. Before she and her husband opened that restaurant, they were coming down from upstate to stay at my house while they were deciding where to stay, where to open a restaurant. And, she's still a friend. And this is sitting with, I call him Brett. That's not his real name, the young man. So, yeah. Okay, I'm in that past tense. They sat on a bench on Main Street. It was a clear night. And by the way, I don't know if you mentioned it, this all takes place on Labor Day week, from Monday before Labor Day to actual Labor Day Monday, okay? And this is around Sunday that they're taking a walk. They sat on a bench on Main Street. It was a clear night. The stars and the moon were already visible. People, couples, families passed by with ice cream from a nearby shop. Others were coming and going from the movie theater. Most of the stores were still open on this Sunday night of the Labor Day weekend. Ellie Tahari, J. Crew, Bookhampton, and all the others. The tourists would soon be gone. The shops would reduce their hours, and some would close their doors until next spring. So anybody from East Hampton recognizes that method that we have out here. One more short piece. The summer went so fast, Brett said. Can you believe it? How am I going to replace you? Diana held his arm. Now, Diana's in her mid-50s, and it doesn't matter. They're like they're buddies. I think you should quit school and stay here. I've thought about it, he told her, but I decided I should finish my degrees. That way I'll be employable in case you flip out due to all your bad tenants and need me to support you. She reached over to kiss his cheek. Anyway, then she goes on about maybe getting a job or something, but that's just shows the rapport they had together. I hope that shows that.
You know, I think having people live in your house, you know, your house is not set up like a hotel. They're living in your house, sleeping in a bedroom, using your kitchen. And I think that it's very important to have some sort of relationship. You either have no relationship with them, or you have to have some sort of relationship. Okay, so what was the worst one? What was the craziest, the one that when people read this book, they're going to remember?
Well, it's hard for me to pinpoint one because there were a number of them.
Pick one.
And I want to mention though that I did start when, and it's in the book, it's in the reviews too. Wait, may I read from this so that I clarify what, you know, then I'll get to the bad one. Okay. Diana makes an effort to be happy. She chooses it. And mind you, there's plenty to be sad and angry about. Losing her husband and life partner in an awful bout of pancreatic cancer, for one. In her, you know, this is early on. She has kids, but they live far away. Nonetheless, she remains defiantly positive. He likes that I really captured East Hampton, among other things. Whether it be on a simple stroll down Newtown Lane with an old friend, or enjoying dessert at Titanuova, or a trip to Maidstone Park, Diana takes time to appreciate it all and often pronounces her gratitude at being alive in the Hamptons. And, you know, he opened this with the review with saying, anyone who has rented out a room in the Hamptons or Toledo, Ohio, for that matter, will identify with much of three-room shared bath. I like that he realized that, because that's what I was hoping people anywhere. Right. So you want a bad tenant, huh?
Yeah, that was a review that you just read a review, yes?
From the East Hampton Star. It was just in a few weeks ago by Jeff Nichols.
Okay, yeah, because I want to talk about the setting as well, but go ahead, go with the really crazy tenant.
Well, okay. The one that, this doesn't show how bad she is just by the opening of it. This is the opening chapter. The call came after lunch on Wednesday afternoon of Labor Day week. Okay?
I remember this one.
You remember this?
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Bazia, the woman said. I see in the newspaper you have room. It wasn't a Spanish accent. As an ESL teacher, I hope you know English second language, spotted those easily. Yes, Diana held the phone to her ear as she cleared the table and rinsed her plate and cup. I have a room. Do you need it in September? No, I need room right now. Now, right before the Labor Day weekend? I am looking for a place year-round, Bazia said. I am living in house 2 years now. It is too much. They smoke, they drink, they're using drugs. They're crazy, and I am getting crazy too. Where are you from? Diana managed to ask. I'm skipping some things here. Poland. I am Polish. Bazia Godluski. But I am here 14 years. I am citizen. Amazing. So many years in the US and she still hadn't lost that thick accent. Diana wondered about her vocabulary skills. But no, she wasn't asking her to teach better English. She just wanted to find a room. Do you have a job out here, Bazia? A standard question as in, can you afford the rent? Yes, I am a massage therapist at Spa in Sag Harbor. I know trouble. I don't drink or smoke. I am very clean and quiet. They all said this, more or less. I'm quiet. I'm clean. I can pay the rent on time. After the tenants moved in, a different story began to unfold. In their minds, they probably were clean, quiet, and cooperative. Perhaps it's my brain that's at fault. Diana checked her eye makeup in the hall mirror. She couldn't see things the way most of these tenants did. And to be honest, she didn't want strangers living in her house anymore. Since Gary died, she depended on the income. Okay.
So how did Bosnia work out? How did she work out finally? Did you give her the room?
She was one of the worst ever in my life, okay?
So she got a room, and what did she do that was so horrendous?
Well, I don't want to give away everything, but she changed over the whole room, and she was a hoarder.
Okay, okay, all right.
That was a big one right there. Okay, that's enough to tell you.
Yes,
And
okay.
boyfriend, and
All right.
she didn't obey the rules either.
Okay. So I'd like to get onto setting because I just think that that whole area that you're talking about, Sag Harbor, Montauk Point, the Hamptons, it's so beautiful. Oftentimes, those of us who live in Nassau County venture out east. And when we do, we always make the same comment. It's like going to a different state. It's completely different from any other place on Long Island and probably in New York State. So I'm sorry about the phone. So tell us a little bit about one of the settings at least.
Well, I will tell you about Maidstone Park. Are you familiar with that?
I've been there, yes.
Okay. So, and this was drawn from my own life because I had a dog for 14 years named Charlie, who I named after Steinbeck's dog. I even wrote about him, My Travels with Charlie, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Charlie and I used to walk down at Maidstone Park. It was his exercise and mine. So in this case, I have Diana walking her dog down in Maidstone Park.
Mm-hmm.
And before I wound up putting that in this book, I went down to Maidstone Park more than once just to check out again every detail of it and make sure I had the right names of all the fauna and flora and fauna. And then I remembered from that fishermen would be fishing in the inlet in the water, but I wanted to make sure about that because I didn't want somebody to catch me. So I actually went to one of the main people who would know this, and local people would know, one of the Lester brothers. They are the commercial fishermen out here.
Mm-hmm.
I went right to where they sell their fish, and I got him when he was coming home from, and sure enough, he told me, he said, oh yeah, there's still fish down there. He told me, and I feel every writer should do that. Make sure that you know what you're
Exactly. Well, I think that's the beauty of, you can make your setting, and I think you've done that. You can make your setting a character. It's an actual character that when you're reading the book, you get a feeling for the place, and it comes alive for people. And I think that's really very important in this book. So
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit. We have about 8 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about how you published the book.
So you don't want me to, well, okay, I don't have to read Maidstone, but people will read it and recognize it, and which Jeff Nichols really appreciated that too, the reviewer. It was also reviewed in all the press papers, East Hampton, Southampton Press, and the Sag Harbor Express by Tom Clavin, another nice, good writer out here, you know. It was a shorter review, but anyway, I'm glad it's been reviewed in the local papers. And what did you ask me?
I asked you about how you published your.
Oh, well, let me first of all, I wrote this back in the fall of 2008. I drafted it. I was in the MFA program at Stony Brook, Southampton. I went back at a later age and got my degree. And it was supposed to write a short novel, which I did. It was about 90 pages. But I did a lot of work on it after that, you know, put it back and forth. And I decided somewhere along the line to set it in 2008. I wanted more setting in it. I wanted a period of time. And had I known about the pandemic and I was writing it this year, it would probably be a different kind of writing that I did because of everything that's happened out here. But as I said, and I think you said that all these landmarks, restaurants, everything are real, including the details of the convention, which I have in the book. Anyway, so how? I wrote this. I had about 4 people I respect who read the book
Mhm.
with time, criticized it, and I got good criticism in the at the college too, at Stony Brook.
Mhm.
And so between all that and going through it eventually, and then adding 2008, adding some other thing, which we all do, writers, I decided it was ready. And I reached out to 2. I figured it's local. I should have a local publisher.
Mhm.
2 local publishers, and they both said no, which is not unusual either for writers, right?
No, no.
But then I reached out to my publisher, Sunbury Press, who are in Pennsylvania. And after my Only You, which I was on your program with my memoir, Only You, about my childhood, my first 20 years,
Mhm.
that was published by Oak Tree Press. But what happened around 2017 or whatever, the publisher got ill. Eventually she died. The company folded. And Lawrence, nor the publisher of Sunbury, stepped up through another writer from Oakview and republished Only You. He reissued it. So when this one came, I sent him a couple of notes. I didn't hear back from him. But then I sent maybe the 3rd note, and he got back to me and he said, Eileen, we want to do this book.
Oh,
So it was published by Sunbury Press.
Mhm.
And as
Are they small press?
no, they have quite a few writers and prize-winning authors too. I'm very pleased
Right. That's
with
good.
what the monthly newsletter, and I'm all over the place.
Mhm.
And at the end of Jeff's review, he put the publisher Sunbury Press of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, where I have never been, but it's
Oh, I know where that is.
you do? Okay.
Yep.
Had the nerve to enter into this genre. And I think by genre, he means this area that is so far away from Pennsylvania. And I'm happy to report that 3-room shared bath holds its own with the best of them. So that's a really good,
Wonderful review.
wonderful feeling.
That is a wonderful review. And where can we find your books?
It's in all the bookstores out here. It's in
What are the
Bookhampton,
names of them?
Sag Harbor Books, Southampton Books, Canios. Romany Cremorse's gallery has some books over there. It's on Amazon.
Yes.
And I think it's on the other sites too, the other book sites where your books, I'm sure, are available too, including Barnes and Noble. If they don't have it, they'll order it,
And also, tell us about how you get the story out there. I know how you do it, but I think people would be interested in how you are able to talk about your book.
Well, it hasn't been easy this year for any writer because of the pandemic. Because so many places are not libraries even are not scheduling author events. I did speak and in person and on Zoom at the East Hampton Library, and I'm very happy about that. I was at Canios, and what do we do there? But have an outdoor in November outside in the sidewalk, speaking, and I couldn't even read, signing books. At least people bought books. And then the Romany Cremorse Gallery, which is in Sag Harbor, and we had a nice little garden in the garden too. People don't want to be indoors still, in so many places. So I'm still working on it, but instead of getting crazy, worried about it, this thing, I'm just going to, right through the winter and spring, I'm just going to promote it in different ways. I have plans, I want to be at a few more libraries, and I have a radio interview, I believe, coming up. And so that's what I'm doing. I believe we have to.
You certainly can use this interview as, as a vehicle.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I tell all my authors, that you have this interview. It's on, I put it on YouTube. I will advertise it on, on Facebook, as you've already done, and you'll be on Cablevision. And so it's like an ongoing thing. I make a joke about it that your book will still be circulating somewhere on the internet long after you're dead. But I have to tell one little story because we're almost out of time. One little story about you and me. I took one of your writing courses, and whatever the prompt was, I started this book about my experiences in Catholic school, and it turned into a book. And the book is the Buccaneers of St. Frederick Island. But that was inspired. In fact, I have 2 or 3 others that could turn into real projects. One I got published actually in the Fire Island News. It was about winter from the viewpoint of a deer on Long Island. So it was
Wow.
that story. So that's basically, how you inspired me. So what's next, Eileen?
First of all, I'm 40 pages into Buccaneers right now. It's a page turner, I'm telling you. I started last night. Yeah, very good. Very good. What's next? I have an unfinished memoir here. And I thought of putting together a collection. I've published so many essays over the years and unpublished ones, which I feel should be published. So I think of an essay collection, even if I had to self-publish that, I don't know. But I do want to finish, actually 2 memoirs unfinished. So one of them, that's next. So I'm not ready to retire.
No. Retire means
I will retire when I don't wake up anymore.
That's it. That's it. Retire means go to sleep. We don't do that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So a word of advice?
Oh, I'm working with memoir. The people I'm working with right now, they're all writing books. Most memoirs have one with a novel right now, but it's partly, like me, it's partly autobiographical in there. So what is this? You have to just write. You have to do it. You can't just put it on the shelf, which I do and we all do, but you can't leave it there for long. If you want to write, even if it's just little notes, journaling, whatever. I talk about this all the time, and I even recommended lately my students to read books. Don't bother reading books about writing. Read memoirs and novels and learn from them.
Right.
Read
a new genre.
Rather than just reading books on how to write, because we can discuss that in the workshops. And you should try to get in with 1 or 2 or more writers who are all supportive.
Well, I'm going to have to say, thank you, Eileen, for this interview, because I think we're out of time.
Oh, it was wonderful. Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you.